channel. Today I am finally sitting down to refilm my birth story video. If you follow me over on Instagram, you'll know I explained the story. I actually originally filmed this video. When I was editing it and watching it back, I just didn't feel right about it. It didn't feel like I was being just my relaxed, raw, authentic self. So it was important for me to refilm it, even though you've all been eagerly awaiting the story, so I do apologize. So I decided to just strip it back, be nice and relaxed, sit in my lounge room. I made a cup of tea, of course, so that I'm nice and relaxed. I thought this would be a nice way to just have a chat to you and yeah, share my stories if we were just sitting together in my lounge rooms. So last time with this video, I did a really long premise at the start, apologizing if I offend anyone or trigger anyone or all of this stuff. And although I still don't want to do any of that, I'm not going to sit and do a big premise of this video. I'm just going to do a really short. If you're pregnant right now and about to give birth, my story is not one for you to listen to yet. My purpose in sharing my story is to make sure that other people who have experienced similar trauma to my own feel like they can be vocal about it and have somewhere to speak to someone, or feel like it's okay that they don't feel okay about their birth story and things like that. If you do watch it and feel offended by anything I say, I really truly am sorry, and I do not mean to offend or hurt anyone. I am filled with so much joy when I hear people's story of beautiful births. It is hard sometimes for me to hear because it makes me feel sad that I didn't get to experience that, but it doesn't take away from the happiness that I feel towards anybody else. So please, after hearing my story, don't think you can't share your good news birth stories with me, because I absolutely love to hear that. It gives me so much hope for my future babies. Anyway, I'm going to stop apologizing and just get into this video because I'm probably subconsciously trying to procrastinate actually having to tell my story. But let's pause for a moment to have a sip of tea. We're good. Okay, so I'm not going to go into my pregnancy just because it's just such a long story, but point being, by the time I got to the start of my labor, I was 12 days overdue, and I'd been asked to be induced 3 times, only because I had gestational diabetes. I was diet controlled, I didn't need insulin, it really wasn't a big deal, and Sophie was monitored daily. I never just walk past. Sophie was monitored daily in those 12 days, so I wasn't concerned about her well-being. All of her vitals were really good, and so were mine. So I wasn't too concerned about saying no because I did not feel like an induction was the right thing for me at the time. In hindsight, maybe it would have helped, I have no idea, but I'm just a big believer in the fact that I shouldn't be giving any energy to the what ifs because it just didn't happen that way. So here we are, 12 days over. By this point, because you can't go over 12 days when you have gestational diabetes, so by this time I was booked in on the Monday morning at 8 a.m. for an induction. And praise be to God, I went into labor at 5 a.m. on the Monday morning naturally. I went through a center within the hospital local to where I live. It's sort of like a center where if you want to try and have a natural birth, you have a midwife that walks you through your pregnancy and they deliver your baby, and they really try and help you have the natural birth that you want. That's how we started our labor journey. I went into labor at 5 a.m. on the Monday morning. I take a sip of my tea because shit gets real. Okay, so I went into labor at 5 a.m. on Monday morning. I just had like period cramps and that sort of feeling. And then I labored at home. I'm not going to go into like full detail because we'll be here for hours, but I labored at home from 5 a.m. until 3 p.m. in the afternoon. My contractions were really close together from the start. And the weird thing was, by the time I got to about lunch, the contractions were really long. Like I remember talking to friends and seeing movies and things like that where they sort of have a contraction and then they have like a break in between, or they have like something to eat or like something like that. That was just not the case for me. It was pretty much like a contraction all the time, and it would just sort of subside a little bit. What I was struggling with most was this weird back pain I had. I could feel my contraction across the front, but there was this stabbing back pain in my spine and I had no idea what it was. We ended up calling my midwife throughout the day to talk to her to let her know I was in labor and this is what was happening. I was in the shower, I was on my yoga ball, got in the bath, was trying to find ways to relieve this back pain. And my husband was saying to the midwife on the phone, look, she's like really starting to not cope, and she's just talking about her back, you know, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And my midwife told us that at the last stretch and sweep, ooh, they are horrible. Stretch and sweep that I'd had, that when she checked the baby, Sophie was actually posterior, so she was the wrong way around. If you don't know posterior, it means that the baby's spine is on your spine instead of being the other way around, so the spine is like up across the belly. I don't know how to like explain that. So every time I'd have a contraction, her spine was hitting the nerves in my spine, hence why I was getting so much pain. Anyone out there that's had a posterior baby would be like, I feel you. My birth plan was to have no pain relief and to do as much of the labor at home as possible. So by the time we got to 3 p.m, I'd said to my husband, look, I can't cope, and these contractions are so close together. I'm like concerned that we need to go. Side note, the hospital we were going to was 40 minutes from our house. So I was like, I do not want to be one of those chicks that end up on the news because her husband delivered her baby in her car, or she did it herself while her husband was driving the car. I was so scared that was going to be me. So I was like, I think we need to go. Can you tell my midwife that I'm not coping and I need to come to the hospital? Chase helped me in the car, and comment below if you had this, but that drive to the hospital when you're in labor is the most painful experience. Oh my gosh, every bump, I was getting so grumpy and frustrated, poor Jace. And he got up to the hospital so quickly. We definitely were not going the speed limit, I don't think. Anyway, awful car trip. Got up to the hospital, and I wasn't feeling totally distraught or anything at this point. I just couldn't get my head out of this back pain. Like the front part, what I felt like was that the front contraction was so painful but manageable, but the back pain was just, it was just like there was a knife in my back. Went in and my midwife checked me. And after she did the check, she's like, okay, let's get you in the shower. And I was like, that's weird. She didn't really give us much information after she checked me. And I sort of looked at her and I'm like, so how many, should we push the baby out now? Because I'm like pretty sure I'm ready. Like these contractions are hectic and this pain is like next level. Is it time? And she sort of looked at me and she's like, let's get you in the shower. I was like, I know what you're trying to do, and I need you to tell me what's going on. How many centimeters dilated am I? She looked at me and she said, darling, you're 3 centimeters dilated. I was like, 3? Like, can I push her out in that? Like, come on now. 3 centimeters. Like, that is not much. That is not near 10. Anyway, as soon as she said 3, I burst into tears. The worst thing I reckon that a midwife can say to a lady in labor is, would you like to go home and come back? No, I am staying and I'm having this baby right the hell now. Anyway, so we said, no, thank you. We would not like to go home. We would like to stay. And I just got to that point and I think I just gave up a little bit, which I think was probably the most dangerous thing that I could have done in my mind. I gave up. I was like, this has been so hard. This is so painful. I can't do this. And what I did is I asked my midwife for an epidural. I said, I know I told you that I didn't want one, but I had no idea this back pain would be this bad. She's the wrong way around. I need an epidural. I don't think I can do this. And my midwife was doing her job, and I so appreciate that she did her job. And I'm now to a stage where I have worked through a lot of unforgiveness towards this midwife because I felt very neglected, and she didn't spend a lot of time with me in my labor. She didn't take the time to care for me. And really that's the reason we went into this particular center. And also she didn't listen to me. She fobbed me off a lot. And I understand that there was times when she needed to distract me to help me work through my labor, but I also think she needed to listen to me. Anyway, I got into the shower and Jay sat with me in the shower credit to all of the men that do this with their women, far out. It is such a journey. I always think, as traumatizing as Sophie's birth was for me, it must have been horrific for Jace to watch. Like, I feel like I would rather go through it than watch him have to go through something so horrible. Unfortunately, he is traumatized by the experience, so we both had a lot to get through. Anyway, I jumped in the shower, was sitting on the floor, and this was hours. And in between this, I'd get up and I'd try and hop in the bath, and I'd try and get back in the shower and try and walk around. And every time I stepped, it would make my contractions worse. And they would just not stop. So at one point it sort of was better that I was a bit more still. I then got rechecked at, I think this was probably around 6 o'clock, so another 3 hours later, and I think I was at like nearly 4 centimeters, but like still not moving. And at this point I said to my midwife, I had asked her about 3 times for an epidural. I said to her, look, I can't do this. I really thought I could, but I just can't. I need some help. Can you please give me an epidural? And she kept getting around saying yes or no, but it was essentially a no. So she said to me, what I would advise is that maybe we should give you some water injections. If you've had water injections, let me know what you thought of them, because they're probably one of the most painful things that I've ever experienced. Honestly, I reckon it's like up there with the actual pushing out of Sophie. It was just horrible. In saying that, those water injections saved me because they really did work. But I got in the bath, had the water injections. They put 2 needles in your spine at the same time, and then they do it again. It was absolutely horrible. Jay said it was one of the most traumatizing parts of the labor for him because of the scream that I let out. It was really, really bad. After that, I stayed in the bath for quite a long time. I'm gonna fast forward. I got to 9 p.m. By this point, the best way for me to explain myself was I was empty. I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I just wanted to go to sleep. I was exhausted, and I needed the baby to come out or to have some relief to go to sleep. And my midwife said, look, I'm gonna check where you're at. She examined me. I was 7 centimeters, not 10, 7. And she said, look, yeah, your waters haven't broken yet, so I think we should break them. I was like, look, whatever you need to do, let's just do it, get it done. And she broke my waters. And from that point, I'm like already getting, from that point, I just started pushing. My whole body just started pushing without my control. And I yelled out to her and said, what is going on? I feel like the baby's coming straight out. I cannot control this. She's like, do whatever you feel like your body needs to do, which I personally feel like, and when I've spoken to my friends that are midwives, they're like, why would she tell you to do that? Anyway, my body just started pushing. And this to me was the most traumatic part, is the next 40 minutes. So this is at 9 o'clock. Sophie was born at 9:58, I think. So within 50 minutes, she was out. So I could feel Sophie pushing down, and I could feel the pains that I'd been feeling, the contraction and the back pain. But all of a sudden, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a muscle tearing feeling, and it was all up sort of in my stomach area. They got me to go over to the bath because I wanted to have a water birth. And as I was sort of getting into the bath, I was thinking, something is not right. This is so painful right now. I feel like I can't function. Every contraction just felt like everything inside of me was like fully pulling apart. Like I couldn't explain it other than torture. It just felt like someone was in there just like pulling everything apart. It was in my stomach and my chest. As she sort of moved down into my like pelvis, I remember this big tear feeling inside, and I honestly was just like, I can't do this. Somebody knocked me over the head. Like, I can't. It was like being tortured and you just couldn't make it stop. Sophie was born. Her head came out in the water. For whatever reason, they needed me to stand up to birth the rest of her. I couldn't get up. I was just like nothing. So Jay's lifted me up and I had her. I didn't get that. I didn't get that moment. And I looked up at my husband. And he looked so sad. And traumatized by what the heck we were going through. And then I looked down at Sophie and I'm so grateful. I do remember how she felt like little slimy like frog or something on my chest when they lifted me out of the water. I hemorrhaged quite severely. They got me on the bed and they asked Jays to hit the emergency button on the wall. And from that moment on, there was so much pain and I was so tired. And I feel so guilty for saying it, but I just wanted to die. I just wanted it to be over. It was so horrible and I couldn't even figure out how to cope with it. At this point, I'm sort of like half in, half out of consciousness. And Jay said he pressed the button and like 8 or so doctors just like came into the room and he got pushed back, which was like hard for him because he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know if I was going to be okay. And anyway, the next part completely changed my life in such a good way now. I'm so grateful that I went through it because it's given me a whole new perspective on life, but fuck, it was hard. It messed me up pretty good. But I had exactly what you would describe in the movies as a near-death experience. They must get people that have the experiences to write them in movies because they're so spot on. At this point, they were just suturing because they were trying to stop the bleed, which they didn't actually, they couldn't find at the time. But what had happened during my labor is I'd torn my transversus abdominis, which is like your core muscles, like your deep abs, all of my pelvic floor muscles, and I had a quite decent cut on my cervix. I'd torn my cervix, which is where the main bleed was coming from, but they couldn't get to it because of how much damage there was. I sat on a floaty for like 16 weeks after labor because the tearing was so bad. Lucky for me, a lot of it was internal, so it healed well because of how much blood is going through your body. By this point, when they were suturing me, they let Jays come and hold my hand. And I remember being able to hear his voice talking to the midwife, and then all of a sudden his voice, all of a sudden his voice started like disappearing. And then I saw the most beautiful, brightest, warmest light. I still to this day can't fully explain it. It's nothing like I've ever seen or felt or experienced it. It was just everything. And I felt so peaceful and calm. And all I had was that light. And I knew it was God. And I knew I was gonna be okay. But in my head, everything started fading, and I was like, I saw the light and I was like, fuck, like, I'm dying. I thought, but it's okay because it's God and this light feels so good and I feel so calm and peaceful and I don't have pain now, and it was amazing. But what had happened is I accepted it. Like, I had fully accepted that I was gonna die. And then, seriously, I feel so crazy saying this and people won't believe me, but what do you do? Exactly like the movies, there was like these like clock hands and everybody's voices was like getting loud and louder and louder and louder, telling me to wake up and breathe, and it was just the weirdest experience. And I didn't like have a flash of my family or anything, it was just like a flash between the room I was in and this light, and it was like this pull back and forth, and I could hear the midwife and Jay's going, breath, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath, Lucy, take a breath, take a breath. And then literally like that, I opened my eyes. I opened my eyes and all the pain was back. They were about to put a new needle in to numb me again because they were taking like 15 minutes to suture. So I went from this intense peace and feeling like it was over and I was going to be okay, and that I died, and that's okay because it happens, and I was going to be with Jesus, and then bang, I was back in it. And I felt guilty for so long. My postpartum journey, I had such severe depression because I felt so guilty because I grieved the fact that I didn't die, which is the weirdest thing because I should have been so happy to be back with my family. But it was just so painful. I just wanted it to be over. I came back to being stitched up and a traumatized husband and a baby who wouldn't stop screaming and wouldn't feed. I don't know if you guys can get it from hearing my story, but the contrast was a lot. It's a lot. And from there, I don't remember a lot, honestly. I feel like that moment happened and it just blinded me. I just felt blinded by the whole thing. Like, how on earth was I going to work through forgetting this? And how was I going to live when I'd experienced that peace and calmness and accepted that I had died? And then I came back and I'd need to live my life and completely reverse that acceptance. I probably sound so crazy to most of you. That was my birth story. It was yuck. It was not nice. It was, I don't know if I could ever do that again. And Jace and I have had many discussions over this time as to whether I can face that again. But I had a couple of moments in my postpartum journey that God really healed me and reminded me of the beauty of what I got to experience. And seriously, it is true. You have that experience and it changes the way you view your life. Like, now I realize that death is not something to be feared, and I have so much purpose. I have so much purpose now, and I live out my passions because life is way too short for me to not do it, to not do what makes me happy. And I don't care what people think anymore, and I'm so grateful for my life. It's crazy, and I feel like this is the reason why I want to share more of my journey and my story, so that hopefully it instills hope in you and anyone else out there that needs to hear it. You guys, my phone just went flat as I was filming the end of that. So annoying. The point is, I'm actually so grateful for the experience now. As you can see, it is a journey for me. I have been battling PTSD from my experience for quite a long time. I'm only just about to start therapy for it because I've been putting it off because I'm very nervous about talking about it. But I think it's really, really important, especially because I do want us to be able to have more children. I just wanted to say thank you for all the love on any video that I've posted where I've been really real and raw with you guys. I appreciate this community so much, and yeah, I just want to bring awareness because there is a lot of people that have been through similar things to myself. And when we talk about it, it's not to be negative, it's not to draw attention. And every time anyone says anything like that to someone like me that's been through that, it makes me feel really invalidated and it makes me feel really alone. So if you do have anyone around you that had a bad experience, please just show them love and acceptance. Don't stop talking to them about your beautiful experiences, but also be super sensitive because it's a really hard thing to go through, and it's a really hard thing to continue to go through. If you've experienced anything remotely similar to my experience, I would love to chat to you and connect with you. So please go and follow me on Instagram at @themamascript or comment below so that we can get connected. I'm gonna end my video there, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for dealing with my blubbering mess so that I finally got to share my story with you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, have an amazing week, and I will see you guys in my next video.